YouTube, happy Saturday. Heir of Carthage to you, or I guess today, Heir of Tournament play. Oh boy, I'm scared. It has been a very long time since I've played in a tournament, but I'm playing in the Wheel Tournament hosted by Heylow. So it's all linked up on my Discord if y'all want to go check it out. I'm going to show you my first round matches against Professor Pipes, who is part of the XMT clan, the Extreme Meme team. I've seen Pipes around before. He's an awesome guy. I'm excited to play him. This is a random pick faction thing. I'm going to put it in slow-mo so there's a little bit of music and stuff playing in the background. It's a random pick faction. So there's a wheel, and the player on top of the bracket, they spin the wheel. That player gets their random faction first, and then they can pick two factions that the other team cannot get on the random spin. So the Skaven was spun for my opponent, Professor Pipes, and he turned around and I don't remember exactly who he banned, but I think it was like Vampire Counts and someone else, and that's probably a solid ban on his part. So anyway, I ended up with Vampire Coast, which I was less than thrilled about. I have no idea how to play the Vampire Coast, and I haven't spent any time figuring it out because I don't really enjoy their online play. I like playing campaign with them, but don't like the online play. So I was like, all right, I'm going to bring a huge army and try and overwhelm the Skaven because I know they also tend to bring large, low-quality armies that have low leadership. So my goal was a large bunch of infantry. So I've got 4 zombie pirate deckhand mobs, 3 mobs with pole arms, so it's a huge amount of infantry. I've got 2 rotting Prometheans. These guys are high armor, something that the Skaven doesn't love to deal with. And so that's why I brought the high armor. And then I brought 3 flyers so that I could try and disrupt skirmishers or artillery. I've got 1 deck dropper with handguns so I can do some armor piercing damage, 2 fellbats. And then Vanguard deployed, I have a Mournghoul on either flank to give me a little bit of quick moving anti-infantry, sneaky action. And I've got some scurvy dogs in the back. Let me introduce you to Professor Pipes' army. He has a huge army as well. If you look at the numbers here, it's about 1,100 and some odd of the Skaven, Coast versus 1,300 or so Skaven. He's got 4 Skaven Slave Slingers, and some of you may be screaming at me like, Heir, how could you bring the Vampire Coast and not bring a bunch of guns? This is kind of why, right here. You know, I may win out in that fight, but I know that if I bring a bunch of guns, the Skaven do have fast units, and units that can run on me, like Rat Ogres, or Doom Wheels, Death Runners. Like, there's fast units out there that I was a little bit scared of. You all know that I tend to play armies that are usually somewhat simple, and I don't want a lot of micro. I've actually broken that rule with this army. It's usually the way I would play, and so I was just worried about protecting a lot of guns, and instead decided to play a little more melee-centric. So my goal is tie up the Skaven mainline, push the heavily armored units through, and then at the right moment come attacking with the Mournghouls, and I should just be cleaning up with the scurvy dogs. So it's going to require good timing on my part. Now, the rest of Pipe's army, he's got 2 Warp Lightning Cannons. I expected Warp Lightning Cannons. These guys are a great answer in case someone brings a Necrofex Colossus. They're also very good against stuff like crabs. They also happen to have magical ammunition, which is going to make them very good against my Lord, which is Silostra Direfin. I honestly brought Silostra for 2 reasons. One, because I didn't think she would be expected, and right here I'm using the terrain to help cover her a little bit because I know darn well those Warp Lightning Cannons are a huge threat because of her ethereal nature. I brought her for 2 reasons. One, she can summon a Damned Knights Errant, and she can summon Rotting Prometheans, so I wanted the extra summons, plus the Damned Knights Errant I believe would cause terror. Most ethereal units do, so I was hoping to be able to terror out a bunch of Skaven, and then hopefully clean them up with the dogs. The idea behind my army, again, was to be intimidating. Now, for Pipe's army, he's got a bunch of clan rats. I believe there are 4 of these regular clan rats. In the back, he does have a Storm Vermin with Halberd, 2 of them. That's a good pick. You're going to need some potential anti-large, and he's also got a clan rat back here. 3 Rat Ogres, this is also a good pick. This gives him mass, the ability to stop large units from plowing through lines, and it also gives him some speed. So I feel like those are some solid picks. If we look across, yeah, 3 Rat Ogres, because one's hidden right over here. I don't know if it's hidden, but it's over here in the woods. So that's the armies. Let's hit play and see how this pulls off, because like I said, my only chance here is to have a well-coordinated attack. Tie down the front line, use Silostra, summon stuff behind the lines, Mournghouls come in at a timely moment, and then swing the scurvy dogs around to chase off routing units, right? So that's going to be the way I've got to do it. He does have Skrulk as his lord, which is, it's a little bit concerning because of the magical melee attack. So Silostra is going to have to be very careful in dealing with Skrulk. So definitely going to give me a potential challenge. And it's Professor Pipes. I know he's a good player, and I expect a challenge from him regardless. Get you a little bit of cinematic goodness here as my deckhand mobs approach. I need to attack. He's got me outranged, and I expected that. I start making some micro mistakes like, oh, actually, sorry, wrong unit. This is not a micro mistake. I'm tying down his cannons, and I want to get some of his units busy here. See how I'm drawing in the attention of some of his units? But the timing was a little off. I clicked an attack order with my hard group, but they started marching around all weird, like they were going somewhere else to attack, so it kind of discombobulated my army. I shouldn't have done that. Should have just clicked them. I've got the Rotting Prometheans headed in here, but kind of forgot to micro the Mournghouls over here a little bit, and so my distraction on his artillery is a little too early, and then these Mournghouls are walking into way too much anti-large. So not a very timely attack there. I wish that I would have been able to get a Rotting Promethean through the line here to draw the attention of some of those units, then bring in the Mournghouls from behind to start pressuring Slingers and other units. But right now, my attack is it's not great, and I've had to keep Silostra so far back that my summons are going to happen a little further away as well. I've got my 2 summons ready, and so I'm going to start moving my summons in, moving my bats in. Again, just trying to keep Silostra out of sight of some of these cannons at the moment. But you can see over here I get absolutely owned. Professor Pipes does a good job of taking advantage of catching these units that I've sent in early. This is exactly what he needs to do in order to increase his chance of victory, is catch these units in kind of one-off engagements, because his front line can only hold for so long. I haven't done a good job of breaking the leadership of his front line as quickly as I probably could, and then having done so would have allowed me to bring all those deckhand mob chaff back here. And my damned knights errant need to be pulling back, but there's a lot going on because I have a big army. I have a very big army. My Mournghouls show up here a little bit late as well too, and I'm just plowing right into Storm Vermin. At this point, I'm pretty rattled about all the things going on, and I have not managed to click a lot of orders, and there are a lot of things happening on the battlefield. I do manage to get a Rotting Promethean summoned. I'm going to try and chase down Skrulk. Skrulk will not be something easy to defeat, and here he's going to use his Rod of Corruption, which is a great job by him. I am using my deck droppers to try and finish off this Warp Lightning Cannon, and we are going to do that. We do manage to get a hold of Skrulk. We managed to finally break that front line there. I've got more Rotting Prometheans over here, so we do get a bit of a break, but at this point I've spent poorly several of my flanking units, and his Storm Vermins and Warp Lightning Cannons end up combining quite nicely. And some of his Slingers are now free, and they're able to put some pressure. I had this spell, which isn't going to do me a ton of good here, but I needed to do some damage to his Slingers, and I figured, why not have a little bit of razzle-dazzle for the tournament here? It was not placed very well. I should have just sideswiped one of these units and done more damage, but it was fun. Yeah, I failed on this flank entirely. Have completely failed over there. My Carronades have been on some work against his skirmishers, and I'm going to target some Rat Ogres here. I'm doing what I can to try and pull those units down, but the Carronades have not been able to do a whole lot for me here, other than help get rid of a Warp Lightning Cannon, which, don't get me wrong, it's important. We did get rid of one of the Warp Lightning Cannons. Silostra is going to get caught by an Assassin, and this is very bad. She's got no protection over here. So this Assassin is going to wreck Silostra, and I was using an ability that was supposed to slow down enemy units, and it does, but even at minus 48 speed, I just can't stay ahead of the Assassin, so I'm forced to fight, which is very bad. I'm getting hit by a Warp Lightning Cannon and an Assassin, so they say it's not over till the big lady sings, and I'm trying to be nice and not say fat. There she goes. She sang while she went down, too, so I don't know, folks, that's not good. When the big opera singer's singing, isn't that supposed to indicate that things are over? Indeed it is. Too many mistakes. Too many mistakes. And a well-picked army, honestly, by Professor Pipes, and good play by Professor Pipes. So when I talk about my mistakes here, Don't take that to mean that I'm attributing, like, oh, the only reason Professor Pipes won is because all my no. My mistakes do help him. Anytime that a player makes mistakes, they help you if you're the winning player, right? However, Professor Pipes played with skill. He made an excellent pick of the Warp Lightning Cannons and Rat Ogres. I would have picked the same stuff, basically, if I were him going for Skaven against this build, because Rat Ogres and Warp Lightning Cannons, I mean, they can help you hold back the monsters of the Vampire Coast, and then how he combined all those Skaven Slave Slingers out there. Yep. So, could my army have succeeded here? Sure, absolutely. It would have taken a much more well-coordinated attack. So, I'm used to using the hard group to issue attacks, and when I did that up front, that created some chaos for me because it didn't work, and I was not able to micro all these units. You know, you got to know your limitations. Being able to micromanage all these units in this fight definitely could have helped me achieve victory. I needed to avoid all of his Storm Vermin in the back, so when you see key units like Storm Vermin like this, don't engage them. That's the best way to deal with units like this. You save them till later. Don't engage them. Focus on routing out the front line, right? I had that front line engagement. I should have tried to just, maybe keep the cannons busy for a minute with the bats. Hold back the Scurvy Dogs until he gets units routing, and then just use the Scurvy Dogs to run down routing units. Don't try and use them for active attacking. But if I would have had the Mornghuls in the right position, bring them in, help quickly route the front line of the Skaven, and now I've got all of these thousands of hit points worth of deckhands mob that are pushing through, and this will help mob down stuff like Storm Vermin and Rat Ogres, right? So I should have tried to push through. Now, Skrolk has the ability, of course, to come in and provide some awesome support to a fight. So I had to avoid Skrolk with Silastra. Being anywhere near Skrolk with Silastra would be a very bad thing, because he has two things. He has the ability that does direct damage, and she's ethereal, and also, he has magical attacks. It's just bad either way. Should I have brought Count Noctilus? I think the record would show yes here. Should I have brought Count Noctilus? Now, does that take away the summons from me? It sure does. It does take away the summons, but we could have probably found some other way to make up for it, right? The summons were originally intended for me to have a quick way to put a whole lot of extra pressure in the Skaven backline, but because of the non-coordination of my attack, it didn't make a difference, and also because I had to try and keep Silastra at a safe distance, the summons were less effective. So it was just a double whammy. Wasn't good. So well picked by Pipes, a good game. I'll show you our next game. Alright, so the second game, and I'm going to pause it real quick so I can show you all the troops. We're here in the second game. This is a best of 3, so this is my chance for redemption. I either get this right or lose at this point. So this time the wheel was spun first for me. I got Norsca and then Band Empire and High Elves. Those two factions to me seem like pretty decent counters to Norsca, so that's why I banned those two. They have a lot of armor-piercing missiles, decent infantry, and lots of trouble to throw at me. My opponent, Pipes, he got Lizardmen, and at first I was kind of excited, like, oh, this won't be a bad matchup, but then I was like, man, I don't know. Lizardmen present a lot of challenges to Norsca as well, potentially. And I'll show you his army first this time. He's got 3 Temple Guard. His lord is a Slan Mage, Lore of Light, and he's rocking Net of Amantok, Foz Protection, and I believe there was one more here. Yeah, Baroness Time Warp and Banishment. So he's got a lot of spells here, but they're good spells. If you infantry blob, then Banishment is great. If you end up in a big infantry fight, Foz Protection and Baroness Time Warp are highly underrated. They're excellent spells and can be used to great effect. So I definitely was worried about the pick of a Slan Mage, and that's exactly what my opponent picked here. He's got a Saras Scar Veteran to give a little bit of anti-large support to the Slan Mage, so a nice pick. He's got a Feral Carnosaur, again, for a little more anti-large. And, of course, the Temple Guard are kind of a nice pick here. There is infantry for Norsca that can deal with them. They're not a frequent pick for Norsca, and they're expensive. Now, you can see his front line's a whole bunch of skink cohorts with javelins. This is just a good way to poison, do a little damage, slow down an enemy front line, and, just harass skirmishers. He keeps his Saras units in the back. He's got 3 of them. So I really like this layout because his front line is just going to be a slow down damage kind of thing to help lessen the charge and the damage that comes in to Temple Guards potentially. So a nice layout. He's got a solar engine up front. Now as for my pick, I was torn in the way that I wanted to pick. I know I have to bring anti-large against the lizards. So I did bring anti-large. I brought Throg and I've got a Skinwolf Werekin. So I do have plenty of anti-large. I even brought a Familiar Warrior with Great Weapon because they're just a pretty darn good unit overall. And I'm going to go ahead and put it into slow-mo here so we can get things started. I brought 3 Berserkers, one of which is the Brutes of the Hound. Berserkers should do well against Saurus units. I did not expect them to do great against Temple Guard, and then I've just got 3 units of Norskin Marauders here just as chaff. The unit that was a little bit... I don't know, this one was a tough call for me. I picked 2 units of Armored Skin Wolves. I was waffling on this one because I kept telling myself, Heir, what good are they going to do you? They don't pierce armor. I was like, well, I don't know if he ends up with some fast-moving cavalry or some chameleon skinks, and I've got no way to run them down. I'm not going to like that, so I wanted to bring something fast-moving, but then part of me was like, man, just leave the Skin Wolves at home, bring some more infantry, maybe swap out some of these regular Marauders for some spears to try and slow down, and plus you got the Familiar Warrior to try and help protect while Throg and Werekin go through. I do wish that I would have dropped the Armored Skin Wolves at this point. As soon as I saw his build, I was like, man, I wish I would have had the Marauder Champions with great weapons, because my Marauder Champions with great weapons would do pretty darn well against Temple Guard. However, I was definitely worried about bringing too much infantry because Slan Mages are very good against infantry builds, and this particular Slan Mage is no exception. And you can end up against a bunch of Stegodons. The other option out there is that I could have brought a Mammoth. Honestly, is a Mammoth a bad pick against the Lizardmen? I don't think so, especially if you have some units that can help draw the attention of stuff like the Feral Carnosaur. Because Mammoths do so much damage to unbraced infantry that it's just absurd, and there's no armor-piercing missiles for the Lizardmen. They do have lots of missiles, and Mammoths aren't hugely well armored, but yeah, I don't know. So should I have brought a Mammoth? Should I have brought some Marauder Champions? Probably so. Probably so. But we'll see how this works out. We'll see how this works out. If I can deal with things properly, we have a shot here. I'm going to try and make sure that my Berserkers are the one who engage the Temple Guard. Berserkers ought to have a decent engagement against Temple Guard. I do have a Metal Sorcerer with the intent that I can either use Final Transmutation or Transmutation of Lead, which will drop the attack and defense, I believe, the enemy. So you can see here, he's trying to avoid this engagement with my Berserkers. Understandable. He's trying to bring up some Saurus to help here and stuff too, but again, I'm trying to make sure I do a better job of getting the engagements I want. I get netted here. This is not good for me, though I do get one Marauder Berserker through. However, it's going to get tag teamed. That net is going to be very painful up front. He's going to put a banishment here too, which fortunately doesn't do a ton to me, but it still does some important damage for him. Marauders are going to be no match for Saurus Warriors. They're going to take a dump on Saurus Warriors. I do manage to get the Brutes of the Hound into an engagement, but I'm getting double-teamed everywhere because of the amount of infantry my opponent has. I need to kill the Slan Mage, but obviously the Slan Mage is just going to fall back through his Temple Guard and rely on the defense of the Feral Carnosaur, while he knows his infantry should be able to win this fight. So if he can delay the death of his leadership or key units, he's going to win. So the onus is on me at this point. I've got to get the job done. You can see here Briona's Time Warp, which is really helping these Temple Guard do well. Again, pretty proud of the way my Berserkers are performing, all said and done here. I was intending to do a quick punch through here with my Familiar Warriors. I wanted to try and cause a lot of damage on the charge to his Temple Guards, and then just try and punch through so that I could come put pressure on his large units in the back. I'm having a hard time finding a decent engagement for my Skin Wolves. I finally get a potential one over here. I've taken tremendous damage at the hands of these Temple Guards on my Skin Wolf. There's a Carnosaur, so this is definitely the play that worried me. These Slan Mages seem so easy to kill, but you got some Poison Javelins around slowing things down. You got the Carnosaur and the Temple Guard. I can't answer the Temple Guard with infantry, so it's becoming challenging. My Werekin gets netted and dealt with. Throg does a decent job here for the time being, but now that this Temple Guard has dealt with my Werekin, I'm in trouble. My Familiar Warriors do get through here, though, and they are going to put a seriously big beating on the Slan Mage. However, their leadership is suffering pretty badly because they're being chased by Temple Guard and Asara's Scar, and again, the Slan Mage is going to be able to just fall back, and all of my attempts to take him down have failed at this point. So we did cause some decent damage with our infantry. Some. It's not great. but we are getting something done. My Brutes of the Hound are over here, and despite having been massively outnumbered, have picked up 60 kills. I've got some more Marauders there, some units regrouping. I've lost my Sorcerer, which is not good. I do have Skin Wolves back here still. So my Skin Wolves are attempting to still hunt down the Slan Mage, but the Slan Mage has a lot of hit points, and I'm having a difficult time singling him out. There's just a lot of support units. I'm trying to use my Marauder Horsemen here, but there's so many Javelins around. I picked the Marauder Horsemen as insurance against Pterodon Riders, and they are terrible against all these Javelin units. So they ended up being a useless pick. Throg gets outed by the Feral Carnosaur. I am really proud of the Brutes of the Hound over here. They have performed extremely well. Extremely well. 70 kills, even in the face of overwhelming odds. So that unit was not a bad pick. Not a bad pick at all. Using my Skin Wolves back here to just try and keep these skinks busy, but honestly that works to his favor as much as anything. Throg regroups, but he's overpowered immediately by the Carnosaur and Temple Guards. And at this point, I've already thrown a GG out there. My opponent has won the match. I'm just trying to give him an honorable fight to the finish by charging my units in and just going all out. If you're going to lose, you go out in style, folks. Getting shot in the face by solar engines and netted by a Slan Mage who taunts you with his fat lizard belly because you had no way to catch him, even though he was so big and slow. That's right. Oh, Slan Mage, you got the better of me here. I was like, man, maybe I can kill this Slan Mage and then I'll feel good about something. But it's not going to happen. I'm going to chain route due to lack of leadership. So again, we did manage to cause decent damage to most of his army. I'd say that we probably did slightly better than the first match, but in the first match, let's be honest, I got owned. I knew this was going to be a challenging tournament. There's a lot of good players in it. There was Pipes, there was Falcon, there was my son, there was Lotus Moon, there was, and if I missed the others, Dov Plays. All the folks in this tournament are good. But that was the point. I joined it, knowing, you know what? I'm probably not going to win this tournament. And there's a pretty good chance I'm not even going to win the first round. But hey, Heir, how do you ever get better? Unless you go play the good players, right? So I intend to do more of this. This doesn't discourage me. It was fun. It takes some of the scariness out of doing some of this stuff. And I would recommend that if you all want to get better at the game, you've got to challenge yourself with tough matchups. You all may have seen recently when I was practicing, I challenged myself by playing viewers, and I also challenged myself by playing some of the folks in my Discord like Falcon. It was great practice. Great practice to get me used to what you might face in those tournaments. And you'll recall I lost both matches to Falcon too. One of them was quite close. The other one was a little more of a sound defeat for me, but it was good. It teaches me the things I need to get better at. So what are those things that I still need to continue to work on? Well, I've got to work on micromanaging my troops. I've got to learn how to, I think, be a little bit better with army picks. In this case, I mean, you think about the Lizard matchup versus Norska. I didn't pick a Mammoth because I'm like, well, you know what? The Lizard men are pretty good at anti-large. Why not pick a Mammoth? Do the Lizards have anything that can kill a Mammoth really quick? They don't. They really don't. Could they torment it with a solar engine? Yep, they sure could. They could certainly do that. So are there ways for them to hurt it? Yep. But I mean, if you think about the build I came up against, and I'll give you guys an idea of some of the builds that I was thinking. I didn't have a better build for the Vampire Coast. I don't know how to pick the Vampire Coast at all, and honestly, I doubt that I would have, made a decent pick with that. It is what it is. But from a Norska standpoint, where'd the stupid Norskins go? Right here. I was thinking, should I just bring Wulfric? And how should I bring Wulfric if I do? Wulfric is a tough character. Throg is really good. I don't know, maybe it's not a mistake to bring Throg, right? Maybe you do bring Throg. And then at that point, Feral Mammoths are, boy, they can run amok. They're real expensive. War Mammoths are very expensive. So if I was going to bring a Mammoth, I don't know. My thinking was it would probably have just been Wulfric on the Mammoth and, just brought some key abilities for him. I would have thought through the abilities. I don't know exactly what I would have brought just right offhand. it gets crazy expensive. Well, the problem is I also want some Marauder champions with great weapons in case I run into the Temple Guard. And then I would have wanted something, you know, like, I don't know, maybe something like this. Brutes of the Hound. So this would have made my infantry line very resistant to what the Lizardmen have to throw. I was just very worried that I'd run into like Mazda Mundi, get into a fight, and then all this expensive infantry gets crushed by ruination of cities and banishment and a Stegodon. But again, should you be that scared of the Stegodon? I mean, you got Norska, and you could bring something like Famir Warriors to help deal with the Stegodon. And then, you know, for the rest of the infantry, you know, why not branch out a little bit, get some of these Spearmen? So these guys could be good at tying down like single entity monsters. So at this point, the Lizards have to deal with this giant strong mammoth. The Famir Warriors can help my infantry stay safe from stuff like a Stegodon. And then I've still got a little bit of money left over. Well, what do I do with it? Well, I probably want a Spellcaster. I don't particularly feel bad about having brought a Metal Sorcerer. I mean, to drop the armor and stats of the enemy. I do feel like I picked a spell wrong, though, here. I think Plague of Rust would have been a solid one to bring. And maybe gone something like that with the Metal Sorcerer. I still keep him on foot, just keep him around these Famir Warriors, and that might help keep him safe. And then that leaves me with a couple of units. Again, I was a little bit scared about Pterodon Riders being a nuisance through this match. So, you know, maybe bringing one Marauder Horseman. Obviously, these guys don't have a lot of other uses against the Lizardmen. And then, you know, what else to bring at this point? There's a lot of things that we could have tried to bring. You know, I could have brought regular Javelin, Marauder Hunters with Javelins. Those guys may have been more useful in the end against keeping Pterodon Riders away. I don't know. I would have liked this build better. I haven't finished it, but I would have liked this one better because my Mammoth is guaranteed to cause a lot of damage. A lot of damage. And if he wants to chase it down, I can always retreat back towards stuff like the Famir Warriors and draw his units into an engagement that they don't want to be in. So the Famir Warriors, you know, being supported by Wulfric, and then maybe a unit of infantry out there to help him too, could do potentially a lot of damage. And then, you know, Temple Guards having to contend with these guys, and now this, it's going to be a lot harder, and could have spread them thin. So I wish I would have gone with something maybe a little more like this. Would it have won me the battle? I don't know. Pipes is a better player. There's no doubt about it. Everybody in this tournament is likely a better player than me. That's something I had to face coming into it. But you know what? I don't care. I'm not going to be a better player unless I play the better players. So again, that was one of the reasons why I joined. Wanted to challenge myself, and I got it. And I feel like I learned some fun lessons here. Will this be my last tournament? No. In fact, the next tournament I play in, I'm hoping to be the host of it so that I can show you all the whole tournament. And I hope you all are excited about it. But thanks to Heylow for inviting me to the tournament. Thank you to Professor Pipes for some awesome games. Really enjoyed playing him. Hopefully I'll get to play him again in the future. And I really, like I said, just appreciate the opportunity to get to participate. And good luck to all the other players in the tournament. They're awesome players. And it's hard to even say who I want to win because I like all of them. So I hope they all do well. And may the best player win.